Hey folks, welcome to the second episode of The Well, a Kingdoms of Amalur podcast brought to you by the community at 38watch.com. In this installment, we'll be discussing the Legend of Dead Kel, the role of technology in the Amalur universe, and the difficulty of reckoning. We also have an interview with the social media manager at 38 Studios, and we'll be announcing the winner of our Reckoning Strategy Guide. This is a long episode, so kick back and enjoy. Alright guys, we're going to start off by briefly talking about the first Kingdoms of Amalur DLC, Legend of Dead Kel. We're recording this on the 20th as it just released, so we really haven't had much time to play it, if at all. So episode 3 will definitely be going more into that. Rachel, you've played it. Do you have some first impressions for us?
I played I probably played about 45 minutes into it, so I haven't really played a lot, but I have enjoyed what I have seen of it so far. I think Bossner will be pleasantly surprised by what he sees, and I won't say anything more than that. Let that be a little tidbit for him to chew on. Because pretty much the whole 45 minutes I was playing, I was thinking, Bossner's going to be so excited that he's...
I'm guessing hot pirate women.
No, not that. But something he's been looking forward to. So, anyways, it's, there wasn't anything that completely blew my mind. You get right into, I pretty much played into going to your player house, which you get pretty much straight away. So that was kind of cool to see that and be able to start to play into that. I think one of the things that they talked about on the FAQs was just how much more expansive this player housing is, how it has like a whole staff associated with it. All those people have backgrounds and quests for you to do. And so that was kind of exciting to me. I wanted to get into that right away. One of the things that I was thinking about as I was playing that I thought I really want to mention this, because I kind of wanted to mention it on the last episode and I didn't, and it just became so much more, like it was in my mind so much when I was playing today, was one of the things that I love about this game is stuff that I like, because I noticed stuff like that, just some little thing on the side that most people probably don't even pay attention to, but little details like I really pick up on and this thing. So, of course, being on an island, there's lots of crabs. And there's some crabs you see near the shore on the mainlands as well. So I have seen them before. This isn't the first time I've seen them, but you see that there's a lot. They're all over the place, especially in the first sort of little dungeon area that you run through. They're all over the place. And I just love how they react to you when you run up to them. I don't know if you guys have run up to crabs in the main game, but you run up to them and they throw up their claws and they know that you're there and they're like defensive. And it's not anything super big or shiny or anything like that, but just that detail of how they react to you, I just love it. I just think it's so awesome.
So to sum it up, first impressions of Dead Kel, crabs are awesome.
Crabs are awesome. Yes, they're awesome. But I'm looking forward to playing into it more. And I'm really looking forward to next episode, hearing what you guys think and us being able to give bigger impressions of it.
I just want to mention how upset I am that we talked about 30 minutes to get the show figured out and settled down, and you didn't mention anything about things that I'll be happy about. So you wait till we're recording to drop something that I can't even react to without interrupting you.
No.
So now I might have to just download it and install it to figure it out right now.
You will. It'll come quickly and you'll be excited. I mean, I seriously, you will start to play. And you will go, this is exactly what she was talking about. You'll just see it and you'll go, this is what she was talking about. So now I'm excited that I got to say something to you about it before you actually got in and got to play it, because, it'll mean something more.
Well, now if it doesn't live up to your hype,
it will. Don't worry about it.
I'm going to blame you.
It will.
Well, what exactly do I have to... Okay, so I buy the DLC and what I...
Go play it.
I mean, how do I get into it? Who do I have to talk to? Does it tell me?
when you get into the game after you've downloaded the DLC, you immediately get a quest pop up that says to go talk to this person in Rathier, and that is the sort of the breadcrumb to take you into the DLC. So I was wondering about that too, because I've seen on the forums, I don't remember who posted, one of the 38 people posted, people were asking, well, how are we going to get there? And they posted, you'll have to go to Rathier and find, I think maybe it was Kurt, and find, a crazy captain who's willing to take you there. So I was thinking, going into the game, well, I'll just go to Rathier and I'll kind of run around the docks and I'll look and see people who have quests there, and I'll just randomly find the person who has the quest for it. But I was pleasantly surprised to find that when I logged into the game, I immediately got a quest pop-up that said, hey, there's this guy in Rathier who wants to talk to you. And it was called Legend of Dead Kel, so it was kind of a giveaway. So I immediately shifted that to my main quest and I went over there. And so they make it relatively easy. You just pick it up from him and he sends you off on your way. So I have to say, too, that so he sent you to talk to a girl who's the captain of the ship that takes you over there. And I adore her. I love her. She makes me laugh. I'm so I know they're going to kill her in the end because they always kill people I like. But she is just the most darling girl. She's an Alfar, and I love her attitude. I love the things that she says to me. She runs along with you for, your kind of partners in crime for the beginning. And I just love her to death. I think she's so cool. I'm looking forward to writing my next in-character Jillian post. And it will be mostly about my character meeting her and how well they get along. And she's very cool.
All right. I'm on Steam right now, and I'm looking for DLC. Because I wanted to wait. There we go. Okay. I wanted to wait, but apparently I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah, but we're recording a podcast, so you will.
Well, you can't tease me like that.
I didn't even think about. I thought going into this recording, I'll mention something about, bossner will be excited to see this thing, but I didn't think you'd be like, okay, now I need to download the DLC.
Alright, so next we're going to discuss a topic that came up on 38 Watch by Kirk. He brought up the subject of technology in Amalur and in the fantasy setting, and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I'll just read a little bit of his post. So I'm kind of curious how everyone feels concerning advancing technology in Amalur's fantasy setting. What I mean by that is, how would you feel about things like guns and non-magic machinery being introduced into the lore? Would you prefer that the lore across all ages sort of plateau with a universe focused on swords and magic? Or would you be fine with industrialization and steampunk elements being added over time? Are there certain things you could live with?
Well, I'll go first. I made a couple posts in that thread and had said that as far as advancements or anything of that nature goes, I want it to stay as close to fantasy as possible. I have so many different problems with things in World of Warcraft, for example. There's a difference for me between being a tinker, which is what, say, gnomes would classically represent, and then being a full-on mechanical engineer like dwarves and gnomes are in World of Warcraft, where we have tanks and, a catapult is one thing. A catapult on the back of a steam engine is a completely different thing to me. And guns and things like that just don't make sense. If we look at even human history and we go to real life for a second, we see that swords, armor, and those kinds of things basically were just immediately nullified by the invention of even a single-shot rifle, or a musket, rather.
Right.
So for me, it is, if you want to talk about immersion breaking, there is, to me, nothing more immersion breaking than having a steampunk elements in World of Warcraft, which, by the way, I don't even consider full-on fantasy. It's, to be a fantasy steampunk hybrid, and it's not something that I want to play. There are so many things out there already that are steampunk hybrid fantasies. I mean, Rift is kind of okay with their lore, just because it's, oh, we're powering the machines with magic, but that's like it's on the line for me, with WoW being way over it. There's a whole long list of things that I don't ever want to see. I don't ever want to see guns. And scepters, the scepters in Reckoning are basically what Ian had said. They're the magic guns. I'm okay with that sort of thing. I just don't want gunpowder going into a rifle-looking thing and making a gun sound and things like that, because that, to me, just completely, that's the most immersion-breaking thing that I can possibly think of.
I like how you compared it to, like, real-world history. Like, if guns came into the world of Amalur, would you really be running around with your daggers anymore, Like,
right.
Wouldn't you swap those out for a couple little pistols or muskets or something,
Right.
So, and then somebody in the discussion, I didn't read all of it, but somebody said, if you can throw fireballs at people, are you really going to have a need to, like, shoot lead at them?
Right. And I think that's Bob Salvatore's thoughts on it as well. So I don't think we'll be seeing much industrialization in Amalur, at least not yet. And I think people understand that a bit, because, if you don't have a need for modern medicine if I could just wave my hands and instantly cure you of whatever ailments you have. And if I can create a magic carpet that can take me across the world, there's no need for me to make a car. If I can enslave trolls, there's no need for me to make steam engines to knock down enemy castle walls, things like that. And so for me, it's an immersion thing for me. A lot of people will say, oh, well, the UI being in my face is immersion breaking, or bad animations are immersion breaking. For me, there's nothing more immersion breaking than I'm running around with a sword, a shield, and full plate armor, and this guy is shooting a gun at me, and I'm just shrugging. Like, that for me is the worst. I hope, and I'm actually glad that there's finally going to be a high fantasy IP out there that seems to stick to the high fantasy IP without feeling whatever need all these developers feel to throw these steampunk elements into it.
I haven't played much World of Warcraft, but the short time that I did, a motorcycle drove past me. And I laughed out loud. I thought it was completely ridiculous, but I really didn't like it, and I do not want to see motorcycles in Amalur. And if there's motorcycles, who's going to ride a horse?
I think I'm a little bit more forgiving than Bossner is, and
right.
and that is sort of twofold. One is I am sort of biased towards steampunk because I love steampunk. I think it's awesome. So I usually, when I see steampunk, even if it seems out of place, I kind of am like, okay, I don't mind quite so much. At least that's how I've been so far. And I did play WoW. I will agree that when they came out with the motorcycles, I was like, okay, they're like abandoning all thought of keeping it in like pure fantasy, and they're just like, we're doing whatever we think is cool, which is fine. That's the way WoW went. But I do have to say I had a dwarf hunter who used a gun, and I would have been sad if she had had to use bows. I think that was cool. I think in the WoW setting, I was fine with it. And I guess ultimately this is my sort of overall philosophy is, because from the beginning it was that way with WoW, I didn't mind. It was just sort of part of the game. And I understand how Bossner feels, and it makes sense to me that he feels that way. I don't necessarily disagree with him. I just think it just doesn't really bug me as much. I don't feel like it breaks immersion for me. But I will say, as far as Amalur is concerned, because we haven't seen any of that so far, if they were, say, they were to come out with the MMO next, if they were suddenly to introduce this group of people that did work on technology, or they did introduce guns and like steam engines and stuff like that into the game, I think I would be a little disappointed. I wouldn't like it as much because I like the way the game is now. I like that there are none of those things. So I think that to introduce it later on would sort of break the immersion for me. Like, I just would be like, this doesn't make sense in the context, because I very much look at Reckoning as sort of the building blocks for Copernicus. So if they have something that is not in Reckoning that they do introduce in Copernicus, I'll kind of be like, well, why haven't I seen that before? That wasn't really part of the world. And I get that Copernicus is going to be thousands of years later and it's not the same time frame. But it's not like that for me. I mean, I'm going from seeing one thing this month to hopefully a couple months to a year seeing the next thing. So I think, I don't mind it in games where they've had it from the beginning, but a game where they haven't had it, if they suddenly introduce it, would be, I think, a little bit more difficult for me to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem if the universe is designed around it. So since I can remember playing the original Warcraft 2, they had things like the Demolition Squad. So that was sort of ingrained into the universe already. So if Reckoning had those things, I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't necessarily. I tolerate it, I guess is a good way to put it. So for me, if we suddenly move 2,000 years into the future and I think both from a what I want and a development standpoint, them all of a sudden introducing all these things to the MMO would be probably a design mistake as well as an immersion flub for me, just because people are already drawing the parallels to WoW with Reckoning, and I think the last thing that they probably want to do is make something that stands out as even more related to WoW. So I think that there's a couple of reasons why they should probably not do it, but the game's already 4, 5, 6 years under development, so we're basically just got to wait and see for that.
So our next topic is one that bossners wanted to discuss, having to do with the difficulty of Reckoning. What you got, Bossner?
All right, so I made a post which was based off of a article on Xbox360achievements.com where they talked to Michael Daw, who is the senior programmer for Reckoning. And basically what he said is he talked a lot about feedback they had gotten and things like that, but one of the big things was that of all the players that played Reckoning, 2/3 of them had played on easy. Now, I had posted on the forums, and a lot of people were confused. They were like, Bossner, why are you posting this? I don't understand. And the thing was, what caused that was I hadn't said anything about it. I was just like, whoa, looks like 2/3 of the people had played on easy, and that's interesting. Most people didn't think that the game was too hard. So I hadn't given any feedback on it, and basically my thought process was I wanted to see if people got the feeling from it that I did, which might have been a mistake because out of the 316 posts in the thread, not a single person got what I was going for, which was that they've confirmed that there's a difficulty patch in the works. And that might sound normal. Oh, people want it. But if you look at the number of 2/3 of the people playing on easy, that means that leaves 1/3 of the entire player base to fall into one of three other camps. They either played on normal, they played on hard and thought that it was adequately difficult, or they played on hard and didn't think it was difficult enough. But 38 Studios is still willing to develop a patch for them. Now, my judgment isn't necessarily if that's a bad or good thing, but it's an interesting thought process for them because they're developing an MMO. And if you go to what is now the most popular MMO in the world, World of Warcraft, or at least in North America, I should say, because there are some that are more popular in Asia, certainly. But if you look at World of Warcraft, Blizzard is doing almost anything that they can to cater to the core casual / not hardcore fan base. When they release content for the hardcore players, they mask it. They go, oh, well, you have heroic modes, which are basically raids that have one or two extra mechanics and harder DPS timers, and that's basically it. And Kurt's come out and said, we don't want to just give you a difficulty that is, this guy hits harder, this guy has more hit points. They actually want to make the mobs smarter. So it's an interesting parallel there where, again, the majority of the player base doesn't necessarily need them to spend valuable development time developing patches to make the game more difficult, but 38 Studios is willing to do it, which is sort of a not contradiction, but is sort of opposite to what Blizzard's doing, where they say, okay, you hardcore players are only, say, 5% of the player base. But we want to throw you a bone. So they get this nonsense faux content that is what everybody else gets, except it's got like an extra feature here or there, which I think is garbage, and one of the reasons that I don't hardcore raid anymore. 38 Studios, even though it's a very small minority, they're willing to do things for that group, and they're willing to do it in a way that is what that group actually wants, and it's smart to do it that way. For Kurt to come out and say, okay, we actually want to make it smarter, that really amps up my faith in 38 Studios to kind of say, okay, they're not going to pull Blizzard here.
I'm glad that he wants to make like smarter mobs, and I mean, who knows if it'll be in a patch or it'll be in like the sequel or something. But I mean, I'm a casual player. I play on normal, and I even found some of it hard. But I mean, some things, like I think the trolls, for instance, I mean, that became easy. Like, I knew, okay, they're gonna hit the ground and a shockwave's gonna fly at me, dodge out of the way, and then he's gonna, sprint at me. I dodge behind him, and then, stab him in the back a few times. And it was just rinse and repeat, doing that over and over again. And I don't know, I found those fights kind of boring.
And I think that's actually a really good point that I hadn't considered. Even if they only are able to enhance the AI for the hardest difficulty, it's something certainly that they're going to learn from for future games, and certainly something that I hope that they carry to the development theories and knowledge that they're using for the MMO, that, okay, if we're going to if we're going to design something that maybe only 5% of the community is actually going to use, we should probably do it right. And that's something that I'm glad to see coming from a hardcore raiding scene. I want features thrown my way. And I understand that I'm the minority, but I'm also the guy who gets on and starts a podcast and other things, YouTube videos and things, and sort of drives the community for your game. So for me, it's a positive sign from 38 that they're willing to spend some of their valuable development time getting things to everyone, whether that's the crowd I belong to, the crowd you belong to, Rachel, the crowd you belong to. They're willing to create features specific to things without trying to appease everybody. And I think that's a valuable thing to take from them that really amps my faith up in them.
Definitely. I just want to steer it back to the 2/3 of players playing on easy. I found that really surprising. Like, I'm not very good at action games, but I still play it on normal, and I think my next run through will probably be on hard. But I'm not like, dissing people or anything, but I'm kind of shocked that so many people play on easy, and I'm wondering, do you guys think that's because like, they've introduced action into an RPG and people aren't really used to it? They're used to kind of like more simplistic battling or turn-based or whatever.
Well, there's a couple of things to factor into that. That's 2/3 of people that actually opted in to send 38 Studios their stuff. So you could theoretically make the argument that the people that want a really difficult game are also potentially the people that are computer-wise and don't want to opt in for that sort of thing, so that maybe those numbers are a little are fudged a bit, where maybe, okay, it's not quite 2/3. Maybe, right. And there's another thing where the people that did think the game was too easy, well, maybe they were like, well, if it's too easy on hard, I might as well dial it down to easy, and then this way I'm not grinding things that aren't difficult. So there could be a lot of number fudging going on. But if we look at the sales for Reckoning, it's somewhere between, for the early estimates, I mean, they haven't really released anything hardcore, but it's somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million, maybe 1.2 million, you know, somewhere around there. That's a big range, but the percentages at that low of a number are not going to change that drastically. So even if it's not 2/3, even if it's only half, that still only leaves half the player base to fit into those three other categories. So, I mean, there's a lot of presumption on my part, but I think that I'm right in terms of it shows that they're willing to give that back. You know, I mean, 38 Studios has the metrics, and I'm sure that they're able to look at that and get a really good picture. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there's forum feedback, and then there's actual raw numbers that they can get from the game, from you opting in. And I think it's important to balance those. You don't want something like Rift where they just listen to everything posted on the forums and then ruin your own game. But you certainly don't want something where you just listen to the metrics, because there are things that you can't get from the metrics, like, do the players actually like the camera? There's no way that they could get a metric from that people are unhappy with the camera. So I think that there's an important balance between the two.
You know, my perspective is, I think that the people that were frustrated with the game because it was too easy for them, even on the hardest mode, went onto the forums and made their opinions known. And a lot of people did that. A lot of people were frustrated because they thought the game was too easy. And I think that's a very valid place to come from. I think that there are a lot of people who are hardcore action gamers who wanted this game to be a lot harder than it is. But I think that there are equally, more so based on what Bossner found, people who thought that the game was okay and played it at an easy or normal difficulty level and didn't go post on the forums, oh, I thought the game was okay at the level that it's at. And, you know, personally, I'm not an action game player, so for me, the game was very well done because I could play it, and there were very few. I played it on normal. There are very few places that I got frustrated or got stuck. There were a few places that I had to drop down to casual because I got stuck. But, you know, overall, I've played it on normal, and I've liked it that way. I haven't gone and posted on the official forums sort of to balance out all those people who are frustrated. I have seen some posts where people have posted, you know, I thought the game difficulty level was okay. So, you know, I think people that are frustrated are going to post. People that are not frustrated, that are happy with the game or content with the game, are 9 times out of 10 not going to post. And so what you're seeing on the forums is the people that are frustrated that are posting. And that's the way it should be, in my opinion. I mean, while, of course, if you're happy with the game, 38 wants you to go post on the forums that you're happy with the game. But really, they want the forums to be a place where if people are frustrated with one thing or another thing, they can go and post that. And those people feel like they are being listened to, which is exactly, I think, what we're getting to, is that 38 has heard those people. They're working on a difficulty patch to make the game more difficult for those people, and that, I think, is a great thing. I think that the people who are like, I know when Bossner posted this forum thread, I sort of watched it for a while, and a lot of people were like, are you crazy? This game is too easy, and their numbers must be completely off, and all this kind of stuff. And all I could think is, all you're seeing is what people are posting, and that majority is people who are frustrated. If every single person who was content or happy with the game posted, and you were able to see a much more clear picture, I think it would be much more like the numbers that this site that Bossner found said.
You know, it's important if you are reading the forums, and this is just general advice for you reading anything. Take everything you read with a grain of salt and compare it to your own experience, especially, you know, listening to the podcast, reading forums, reading reviews, anything like that.
All right, I hate to cut you guys off, but we are running a little bit long, and I think we should move on to the next portion of the show. Up next, we have the first of what we hope to be a series of interviews with members of the 38 Studios team, where we'll talk about, all things Amalur and what their experience was like working on the IP. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get to our first interview. Today we have Kevin Johnson on. He's also known as Haven. He is the social media manager at 38 Studios. And why don't you tell us more about what that means?
Oh, sure. First off, before we jump into that, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. We are very excited about what you guys are doing and really enjoyed listening to episode 1 and just grateful for the chance to be on here with you guys. So awesome work, and everyone's excited about what you're doing. To jump into your question, my title is officially the social media manager of 38 Studios, which lands me smack in the middle of a community team here. And my work spans over, obviously, what you've experienced with Reckoning, but also on other things going on at the studio that will be happening down the road, obviously. So IP-wide, company-wide, my duties are kind of across the board. So I handle, of course, the typical social media spaces that anyone would think of when that comes to mind. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of that. I do a little bit of work on the forums. So that's mostly Muse's territory, Jess Folsom's territory, and she does an amazing job. She's so awesome. But part of my duties have also fallen in the creative side of things as well, at least through Reckoning. So, producing and shooting and producing the Inside Reckoning series, as well as, doing a little experimenting with live streaming and with the Reckoning Live stuff, and taking a good bit of screenshots as well. I got to get my hands dirty with that a little through the marketing campaign for Reckoning, which was really, really cool. So, the company is one of a lot of people wear a lot of hats around here, and that's probably the nature of any kind of startup company, but it's definitely an exciting day's work for sure.
I really enjoyed the Reckoning Live series.
Thanks, man. It's one of those things where you have such big visions for, and but when push comes to shove, there's only so many hands and only so many lights and technical stuff that you have at your disposal. So that, when I look at that, I'm very grateful and excited for what we were able to accomplish with that. But I see it as just sort of a seed for something bigger in the future. So that's cool that you liked it.
That kind of leads me to one of our questions. One of the members of the Watch wanted to know if you had any interesting plans for the social networking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think about that all the time. We obviously wanted to do more of what you're seeing there with Reckoning Live. Video in general, I think, is, where media is just moving, especially with the web. So there's so much more we want to do with that. And I think that begins with, regular, consistent interactions with community over live stream media. So there's, stuff that we would like to do with that, as well as opportunities to interact with the community in new ways. I think a lot of the stuff that Google's doing with Hangouts and such like that are really, really exciting and very, very compelling. So, when I look at the traditional social media spaces, those are the kinds of things that are coming to mind. We have a lot of stuff brewing in regards to how we can engage the community. You're beginning to you see a little bit of it beginning to show in the Reckoning site and also the Amalur.com site, and there's plenty more to come with what that's all going to look like moving forward for sure.
Right on. Look forward to that. Have you yourself been playing Reckoning recently?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've put in, how many hours? I don't know. Probably of casual playtime, I've probably put over 120 hours into just playing the game. But then, obviously taking screenshots and, shooting in the game, probably hundreds more hours. But definitely have put my time into Reckoning and have thoroughly enjoyed it for sure.
Cool. What kind of Destiny do you like the best?
I kind of posted about this on the Watch a while back, but I'm a real sucker for mobility in any game. So anything that allows me to move quickly and cover a lot of terrain fast, I really like. So that landed me square in the the finesse tree with the lungeability and the dagger charge specials, as well as pulling in harpoon from the might tree and probably using some daggers. Then I focused on bleed and crit damage. So that's my favorite type of play in that game right now.
Nice. That actually sounds a lot like my character.
That's cool.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in gaming?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably like a lot of folks our generation, I grew up on Nintendo and Atari and all those things. So I had my share of gaming as a kid and played throughout, high school and whatnot. But when it came to college, I actually spent my whole college career not even touching video games. I went to school out in Colorado in the mountains and really just kind of separated myself from that side of technology. At least from a hands-on place. I was studying it and always keeping up to date with blogs and things that were going on as the web was growing and all of that. But didn't really put my hands back on games until a couple of years out of college, and I picked up an Xbox, the original Xbox late, and started playing again. Obviously, super interested in the way the internet was affecting culture and began to follow, of course, MMOs. And when I was in New York City, I began, kind of playing these games and trying to get an idea of what exactly is going on that's so different here. And, downloaded demos for a lot of games, at least any game that, that they were available for. And was fascinated by them. It was, of course, World of Warcraft was the demo I was playing at the time where, I had downloaded and I was playing a warrior and I was, fighting through Elwyn Forest, and I'm like, oh wow, this is quaint. This is cute, killing gnolls or whatever. And I log on to the official forums for World of Warcraft, and I'm reading through the warrior forums because I was playing a warrior, and I come across this guide called Fortifications by a guy named Ciderhelm. I'm like, oh, Fortifications. It's kind of a dramatic title for a game. It's like killing gnolls, and so I open it. It's like this 30-page Bible of like calculus and like philosophy on what it means to be a raid tank and all this stuff. And I was just like, whoa, what is going on here? It was like opening a window or opening a door, peering through a window, let me get my analogies right, into a world that was so deep that I just had no perception of, watching someone so articulately and specifically describe a role within a community that and how to make that role strong and effective and very, very, as sharp, as razor sharp as it can be within a group of other people. I was so impressed by it, and yet I had no perception of what that could be, having been, just started the game and being level 5 or whatever. But was fascinated by, and so that essentially just opened the doors for me to really kind of pursue what MMOs are about and kind of online gaming in general. And got so fascinated with that, I wanted to see what in-game MMOs were like. So I, leveled all the way up in World of Warcraft and began raiding. This is in Burning Crusade at this point. And got my first raiders in Karazhan, which was amazing. It was just so wow, so excited by it. It was so fun and cool. And raided through Burning Crusade and then into Wrath of the Lich King, and really got into cutting edge kind of server progression rating in Wrath of the Lich King, and had a blast with that and realized, hey, I don't think people really get what this is, how complicated, how social, how choreographed, how organized, how difficult, something like MMO rating is. And, when I would speak to my family, they didn't quite understand, what is this game and what's the big deal. And so my career background at the time was as an actor and a filmmaker, and I just decided I wanted to make a film about online gaming. So I made a documentary called The Raid, which looked a little bit deeper into online gaming and a really incredible community-driven experience. But finished that film up, and and then kind of began looking more and more as making a career out of being involved in sort of the cultural and communal aspects of online gaming, which kind of brought me here.
On multiple occasions, I have used that documentary to help people that I know that don't game really understand exactly what you said, that it's so much more than just a person sitting in front of their computer playing their game. And I just really want to take a moment to give props to The Raid, because it's such a good documentary to help people get an inside view of what it is like to be in that kind of a situation, to be in that kind of a group where you're working as a team towards a goal. And people who don't do that, I think, really have no concept. So that's been a really great tool for me to use to be able to get people who when I say I play MMOs and I do raids and they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, just watch this and you'll understand. And so I have used it. I've probably given it to 4 or 5 different people. I got a hard copy and I've given it to multiple people to watch, and it's been a really great tool for me. So I appreciated it a lot.
It's awesome to hear. It's that's the real goal of the film. That was really what I wanted to accomplish. So it's definitely exciting to hear that that's the case for you. Trying not to be too easy-handed with it either, because I know, as you probably know too, Rachel, that like it's a complicated issue. So when the media paints something like online gaming with such a negative light, they're missing all the positives. But then at the same time, I know that we as a people and a culture are still trying to figure out where these experiences fit. And where things do go too far, and where are those gray areas. And so I did try to at least to do some justice to those issues in the film, where it's like, this isn't quite so clear cut as like 100% awesome or 100% not awesome. Like there's just like anything, it's a complicated issue, and full of nuances that I think we as humans that need to be accountable and responsible for our own time just have to figure out. And so anyways, glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm not just saying this, but I've seen a few of the different MMO documentaries. Wasn't really impressed, but yours is definitely, it's up there. It's the best, in my opinion. And if you guys listening haven't seen it, I really suggest checking out the raid. We'll move back to Reckoning themed questions. But real quick, I just wanted to know, can you see yourself doing another film someday? Or is it something you'd be interested in doing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think when I look at myself, the things I'm interested in, I think the creative side of it is the strongest pull for me. I'm fascinated by technology, the way it's influencing social culture and all those things. But I think at the heart of who I am and where I feel most, my voice feels strongest is I think in that more creative, expressive place. So I could totally see myself doing something like that again on a grander scale, or even, I don't know, in a different format, maybe even. I don't know. I always have thoughts running through my heads of how we could try to communicate some of those issues a little more clearly. And we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Cool. All right. Here's a question you may or may not be able to answer. But can you foresee like a 38 convention, existing someday?
Oh yeah, you mean like a BlizzCon of 38 or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's so many grand dreams that fill these halls here in Providence, and that is certainly one of them. There are such high hopes for this IP and where the company's headed that, of course, that's one of the many, many big dreams that we have on our list. It would be such an honor and so cool to have a community that was following what we were doing to the extent that we could, justify having people on our home turf and host them at a conference. That would just be amazing. We have a lot of work to do, and I think I'm not the only one who would say that until we can get to that place. But I know that's definitely one of those big dream things that we hold here.
All right. And as far as conventions go, can you tell us which ones 38 Studios will be attending this year?
Oh, you mean like with the rollout for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
That's probably one of those questions I won't have an answer for you on. There's a lot going on here, and I don't think we're in a place to really commit to some of that right yet.
Okay, no problem. Are there any plans anytime soon merchandise like T-shirts, posters, and stuff that we can buy?
Oh yeah, that's again one of those things where we're constantly working on trying to implement, and there's just always things that are a lot more complicated than you would think sometimes. But that is certainly something we think and even talk about even currently on how to do. But again, no promises there right now. But yeah, certainly we've talked about a lot of really fun things and silly things, and oh man, wouldn't it be awesome to have like Boggart plushies? And we've certainly gotten our hands wet with kind of motivating some of that kind of stuff out of our doors here. Starting with the collector's edition, and getting those things to happen. So I think we're positioning ourselves to be in a place where we can do that more readily. Just we don't quite have a solid answer on it yet.
All right. What are some of the differences you've noticed from being part of the community versus being like a community manager, and what do you miss about the fan side?
Yeah, gosh, that's such a great question. Being a community member, it's a really interesting place to be because you are such a vested and interested kind of vessel of reception. So, any morsel, any video frame that you receive is just so, eagerly consumed. And that just leaves you then with more speculation on, what about this and what about that and what about this? And, being on the other side of it, all of those, when you have full transparency into exactly all the reasons why, how, when, why did this happen, this, that, and the other, when are we going to do this, when are we going to do that, it is such a different place to be. And, you sometimes wish, I wish the community could understand this issue a little more clearly, but, the best way to handle things sometimes is just, allowing the community to have those questions. And, and it's a very interesting place to be because I know what it's like to be an avid, rabid fan for something, having come from that place and, being a member of 38 Watch and all of that. And then coming over to this side, you just begin to realize how complex some of these issues are, and how, as a fan, you sometimes think they're a lot more simple. But one thing I've learned being on this side is, game design, even a single player game, is so incredibly complex. It is the most complicated collaborative, I'm going to say art form, though I know that's a running argument. It's the most complicated collaborative exercise, art form, whatever you want to call it, that is in the world today. I would say it's so complex and that raises so many issues. And you build this machine that is just like a stack of cards that could, if you pull one thing out just a little, the whole thing could crumble. And so when it comes to issues where as fans you care about this side of the game and that side of the game, and why didn't that happen, and why didn't that, there is just like a whole wealth of reasons behind why some of that stuff comes to be, or why the designers who are equally as much a fan of the product they're making as the community is, why they decided to go one way rather than the other. And, you sometimes wish the community could understand all of those reasons. It's an interesting place to be, for sure. And we appreciate the fact that people are taking our game, taking Reckoning at face value. It is what it is, and we're very, very proud of it. I couldn't be more proud of the team, the time, the heart, the energy they poured into it. It was really a phenomenal experience watching that happen, coming from a community position, moving into this one. So I have utmost respect for the process, for the developers, for everything that goes into making a game like Reckoning happen. And then, of course, you want to talk about MMOs. That's taking a gaming experience to even more complicated heights.
What was it like meeting some of the visionaries and the veterans on the team?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So cool, for sure. Being able to meet folks like Ken Rustin and Todd McFarlane and RA, and, of course, Kurt, obviously, immense respect for those guys and the kind of experience they have in their individual fields, and then the fact that they're collaborating together on this project and on this intellectual property is just phenomenal. And it is really, really cool to see the teams, on video conference with Todd, working on certain element of the art design, just walking through the main area there, you see this video conference and Todd's looking at artwork and talking to them over, from his Phoenix studio. And I think that's just really cool, and very inspiring. So really cool guys, each of them obviously successful in their fields, but easy to talk to and inspiring. I had the privilege of traveling with people like RA and with Ken and Kurt, not so much with Todd. I haven't had a chance to do that, but when you get to sit around a dinner table with someone like Ken Ralston and hear about his thoughts on not just games and role-playing games, but on the world. Like, he is such a Renaissance man, and has some of the most fascinating real world life experiences to share. Is really, really an interesting guy. And then, hearing his thoughts on role playing games. I mean, the guy is amazing. He is one of a kind. And like some of his thoughts, like, he really, really, really believes that dialogue is the death of role playing games. He is a wild man when it comes to his desire to have pure, I don't know, what would you say? Just pure responsive interactivity with the player. He doesn't want any downtime. He doesn't want to have any moment where you're being, just fed something. He wants you constantly having this sort of mental up and down journey of making decisions, no downtime for reading or maybe he'll go along with reading, but no downtime to being like, just he wants you playing the game, and like he's a very purist about that. So, anyways, Ken's amazing. Ra obviously fascinating, passionate about story, and we have the privilege of sitting with Ra on occasion here in Providence, where he basically just covers the IP, the story behind Amalur, the work that we're doing, and does that for new employees, and it is just a phenomenal thing to sit and to hear, and the amount of detail and heart, the intention and sort of shepherding that he's doing as it grows is very, very cool and very inspiring. It makes you proud to be a part of it, because it is so specific and intentional along these theme lines that they've sort of set up and guide railed for this whole story. So very cool. And then of course Kurt, the launch to Reckoning, I actually had the privilege of traveling with him a really good deal. On a lot of his press tours and radio tours. And the man is just so passionate about what he's doing and about this company and about the employees that work for this company and taking care of them. And I have a great deal of respect for him. He is almost rabid when it comes to promoting his vision to other people and talking about this game, just tireless, watching him talk to 80 radio do 80 radio interviews in a day and just not drop a beat, like just one after the next, like, when let's do another one. Let's go, like just nonstop. And, the energy constantly at 100%. Like it's inspiring stuff. He's a really a solid leader, and very, very cool to be working for him.
Cool. Have you had any like in-depth conversations with Bob Salvatore about his books, or even possible like upcoming Kingdoms of Amalur books?
When I've had a chance to talk with Bob, it tends to be more about actually about games than about some of his past books. So I haven't really had a chance to really dive deep with him on some of his writing. We usually end up talking about things like EverQuest or World of Warcraft. Or what we think about this MMO mechanic or that MMO mechanic or whatever. But when it comes to what the future of RA and Amalur, Kurt's posted about this on the forums. Like there's infinite dreams and plans and hopes and wishes and all of that. I think just is going to take a little bit of time to work itself out. And but yeah, he has obviously cares a great deal about this IP. He's poured years of his life into it, and has been so excited for Reckoning to get out the door, just to even have a chance to begin to talk about it, to have a language to speak about what he's done with the world, rather than just like, oh, we can't talk about it. Now there's at least, a landscape has been painted with Reckoning, and he can begin to kind of talk about it. So there's a lot that we want to do with RA and of course his talents, and there's a lot he wants to do as well. So all stuff that's coming just hasn't arrived yet. So
what has been the biggest hurdle or crisis in terms of public relations, and how did you deal with it?
That's a really good question. The journey to Reckoning, we've had we had a couple, I don't know, things that I resound as sort of like heartache issues for us here, more of like, oh man. So things that come to mind are like the collector's edition only being available in North America, and or the strategy guide coming out 3 weeks late. And those things are things that they're not ideal, and we do our best to handle that. And even from someone all the way up to Kurt realizes that's not ideal, all the way down to us realizes that's not ideal. And, sometimes you're put in a place where you have to make the best decision with what you have. And, for instance, the collector's edition being only available in North America, that's one of those things where it's just like, it came down to this decision that was either we have a collector's edition that's North America only, or we don't have it at all. And, for the people who are interested in what we're doing and care about this IP, even like you guys, 38 Watch, people who are already invested, we want to be able to celebrate that with something cool. And at the same time, putting something out like that we do care about, and it's sort of like, we want to celebrate with fans. It's still heartbreaking when you have people from the UK writing and saying like, man, why can't I get that collector's edition? And you're just like, man, we totally understand. Like, I had to do this for people like you. And it is the total heartbreaker that we weren't able to make that happen for, people outside of North America. And but that came down to time and resources, and just we couldn't physically make it work. And so you do the best you can, and then you have to be as honest and transparent about how that went down, as you're dealing with fans, because you have to respect their interest, their passion, their love for what you're doing. I mean, that is an honor, and there isn't one person at this company who doesn't feel that kind of interest as a total honor. And it's something we want to respect and, speak sincerely to, and not be glib about in any way.
I'm not sure what this question is about, but can you talk about the incident with the daggers?
Oh, yes, the incident with daggers. So I was flying with Kurt. Where were we going? We were going to Los Angeles to do LA Times interview, and then something else, Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, so we were flying, and the PR team wanted us to bring some weapons for the not Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel. This was for Kimmel. Wanted us to bring weapons for the Kimmel skit, and so we brought the daggers, these reckoning daggers. They're basically they're actually like full-on LARP weapons. You could use them in like LARP combat. Like, they're really cool. I don't know if you've seen pictures of them. We gave a couple away during the Day of Reckoning event, but I was traveling with two of them in my and I just put them in my carry-on bag. I guess I wasn't thinking these things are made of rubber, totally not sharp at all. But I mean, they look crazy. But so I've had two of them in my carry-on bag, and the guy, stopped me. And what's funny is we were flying Virgin America, and I was in one. There was only two security lines. I was in one security line. Kurt was in the other, and it was just me and Kurt flying. And he put his bag through his, and I put mine through. And we basically both shut down the security line as they were checking our bags, because Kurt had some sort of multi-tool in his bag, which he didn't realize. And then I had these two huge daggers that were made of latex, and they pulled out these things, and the guy's like, "What the heck are these?" And I was like, "Oh, those are toy, they're like props. They're rubber." And he was like, "You can't bring these on." I'm like, "Dude, they can't cut anything." They're totally, it's like a Nerf stick, and he was like, "Well, sorry, you're gonna have to put these back through." So we basically locked down the security line for 10 minutes. No one could get through because Kurt shut down his line and I shut down mine. So it was pretty funny.
Oh man!
What did they make you do with them? Did you have to go back and put them on a check or something?
Yeah, so I basically, they went back out and I checked what I was going to carry on my bag, because we were just going to be in LA for a day and a half. So I just, instead of carrying it on, I just checked it, and they were totally cool with that. But let that be a lesson. Don't travel with rubber daggers in your bag. They're not going to let you use them or let you fly with them.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on Twitter, and that's when I knew. I was like, this is going to be a good trip. We're going to get some good stuff out of it.
Yeah, that was that was the first trip of the kind of the media PR blitz that Kurt did going up to launch. So there were 4 major trips that he took. One to LA, one to where was the other? New York, LA again. I mean, and then Indianapolis. Yeah, I went with him we went to Radio Row before the Super Bowl and did all these crazy radio interviews. And that was just really crazy and cool. But we actually shot a whole bunch of behind the scene footage that we're trying to figure out what to do with. Lots of video. We basically did behind the scenes footage of that whole journey. And maybe when we have the time and the space, we'll put together something that's kind of community facing that shows all that. Because there's some pretty funny moments, Kurt wearing this crazy, or wanting to wear this crazy orange Hawaiian shirt on Jimmy Kimmel. Like, there's just some really funny moments. It's like, what? It's just so funny.
That's good stuff to say for like a 1-year anniversary. You just have this film of all these crazy things that happen for the release.
You know what's funny is it was so hilarious to be traveling with Kurt, especially in a sports environment like the Super Bowl, which granted Kurt was a baseball player, but being somewhere where people are sports minded and then being around Kurt is fascinating because we see Kurt here in the studio all the time and like, yeah, sure, he's Kurt Schilling, he's the chairman, founder of the company, but like, people don't treat Kurt like a god around here. You know what I mean? So like going from, because he's Kurt, he works here. So we travel with him somewhere where people treat him like, a god is just like wild. We had to pull up to get our luggage out of this hotel and we pulled up in this suburban thing and they pull up right out in front of the door and of course anyone who's there at the Super Bowl knows there's like celebrities everywhere, so they see this tinted windowed suburban out in front of this hotel. They know someone's going to be here and they find out it's Kurt and this like mob forms around the car and Kurt comes out and then like people are cheering at Kurt and this one crazy lady's like, Kurt, you need to run for president. You need to run for president. And she's like, and he's like, what? And I'm like, I'm filming this whole thing. And I'm like, man, Kurt, showing this to the company, it's just a funny contrast, coming from seeing him every day, working here, being involved in the company and then stepping out into the quote unquote real world that knows Kurt as superhero Red Sox legend.
Yeah, I keep thinking if I ever get the chance to meet him, I have a hard time deciding for what reason I will be more excited to meet him for, because I'm a huge Red Sox fan. So in that, I love him, but then just his contributions to gaming and his passion for gaming and everything, I'm just like, I don't know if I could act like a normal person around him, but...
Yeah. He's a pretty inspiring dude. Definitely very passionate about what he thinks. Not just about sports or gaming, but about anything. Like he has strong opinions, and he's good at speaking those.
I'm kind of the opposite of Narria. Like I don't watch baseball, so I really didn't know of Kurt Schilling. Like I didn't even know about the bloody sock or any of that until this game came around. But just as a fan of the IP. I don't know. I think he seems like a really cool guy. I love how the chairman is constantly posting on the forums and other forums. And he was on the, 38 Watch posting for, I don't know, probably years before we even had Reckoning. And I mean, it's like, to me, it's like, it's no big deal. Oh, that's Kurt Schilling. That's what he does, That's how I've known him.
Yeah, he's pretty much everywhere. He is all over the place. That makes for an exciting time as a community manager for sure. And that's another one of those things, coming from the community into working here, that was a big eye opener, is that like, I think sometimes there's a perception in the community that like, maybe that the developers aren't paying attention, and is that just a total misconception. I mean, like anyone here, especially, talk about Reckoning, the Baltimore team, like they are so tuned in to what's going on the forums. I mean, they're just if you go to anyone's desk in Baltimore, one of their browser windows is open to the Reckoning forums. I mean, like they're all reading them. They're all care about what you guys are thinking and saying. I mean, and they're all, reading them all the time. I mean, that's Kurt, at 2 a.m. Even traveling with Kurt, he's like, where's Kurt? Oh, he's probably back in his hotel room, like reading the Reckoning forums. Like that's what he's doing, it's like, and I don't think, sometimes the community doesn't realize that people are that invested or that involved, even if they're not posting, so you don't really see how much time they're spending reading, but they are. They absolutely are.
And I think that really points back to, something that you said earlier that I think is really important for us to highlight, that sitting on this side of things, on the sort of fan side of things, it's difficult for us to, and we really can't comprehend the big picture. And so you guys being on that side of things who can see the big picture, it's very different. And I think a lot of times fans take for granted or like to make assumptions about, they're not telling us stuff, or they just don't want to talk to us, or they're not paying attention to us. And And I think being able to, by you saying what you said, being able to highlight that, yes, we are very visible to them just because they don't necessarily respond every day. And certainly some of them do, like Kurt, and I know a lot of the developers are on the forums and frequently will answer questions. But we can't see the big picture. We can't see them looking at the forums every day. So, I think it's important that we as fans not assume that just because they're not talking to us means they're not listening to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Any suggestion or thought you guys post on there is getting seen by someone. I mean, it absolutely is. And one of the coolest things, Union from 38 Watch knows this, but one of the coolest things about the BHG community there in Baltimore is that they are such a tight-knit group. If a programmer has an idea about a zone, like, hey, I was playing through this zone and I really think this is good, they will walk over to the world builders and get in a conversation about it and have input into that. So, any issue that is striking at the core of something that one of those guys comes across, whether it's on the forums or just even in his own daydreaming, they are such an open kind of the ability of people outside of their own official job title to make changes in what they're doing and what they care about is like wide open. And that's a really cool kind of quality about that studio, is that they're also invested and also care so much that if someone has an idea that they know will make a certain part of what they're doing stronger, they really do speak up and try to make that happen. And everyone is very receptive to that too. So it's very cool.
All right, the listeners would probably be angry if I didn't ask. So, any plans to launch Project Copernicus in 2012?
Oh man, when it comes to Copernicus, I can't really talk much about any of those specifics. Just can't. One thing I can tell you is that Copernicus is alive and well. It's an awesome thing to be a part of, watching it grow. And as soon as we can tell you guys anything about it, we will. And I know we have a whole building full of people that are anxious for that to happen, especially now that people are beginning to see the IP and, they get a sense of kind of the world we're building around Reckoning, and then, with the Amalur.com site and beginning to get a glimpse of the depth of what we're doing. I know that Steve Denuser occasionally will post on the official forums, dropping little lore bombs here and there about, this, that, and the other, which is really fun, I think, for those that are kind of paying attention to that stuff. And, there's a lot of people here anxious for the community to see exactly how much work, how much heart has been poured into creating this world. And, that'll happen soon, hopefully, but we'll see. We just can't talk about it right now. So,
what is your favorite thing about Reckoning? And are you looking forward to the DLC? I think that's obvious, but
yeah. Oh man, my favorite thing about Reckoning, honestly, I think it's so cool being again on this side of things. And my favorite thing about the game is just seeing what the team in Baltimore was able to accomplish. The ways in which they stretched the genre, was so inspiring. And then the quality of the product that they were able to produce with the number of people working on it, the budget that the game had, that game is an absolute testimony to the heart and just overtime hours that crew put in. I mean, I just cannot. If there's one thing I want to get across, it's just how much those guys just poured their soul into that thing. And I was down there quite a bit throughout the development or the latter development process. And some of those guys have been working on the game for over 5 years. But the latter development process since I got the job here, like my first week on the job, I was like, I got to be in Baltimore. I want to get to know those guys. I want to get to know Reckoning. I got to be there. So it was from day one on. I was just trying to soak in what those guys were doing. And so I had a lot of trips down there and interviewing all the devs, and I feel like I really got to see the inside of what those guys were doing. And man, those guys were there all hours. I mean, just as late as you can imagine, and then as early as you can imagine, just nonstop. Some guys sleeping on couches, just nonstop. Unbelievable. And I was just so impressed by the fact that they were they were doing that because they wanted to. They weren't doing that because they had to. Like, they just wanted to make things better. And so my favorite part about Reckoning is just sort of appreciating the heart that was poured into it by the team here, and utmost respect for that, as well as, coming from, again, I got to walk into this from the fan side. So having fallen in love with what I had seen of the IP and learned of the IP before, and then getting to see, Reckoning be the first kind of banner, first sort of sign of life about that IP was just so cool. And to be able to walk around these areas of the Feylands and know that this is the ground that you will be seeing, this and things to come and learning about. And so, your time spent with this game is time spent getting to know the heart of what we're doing. And, that's just so cool. So that I think that's the thing I really do love the most, outside of the fact that it's really fun to play, like the combat and the moment to moment side of, as I said before, the way they stretch the genre, making that immersive, more exciting, and engaging. And then, this idea of figuring out how to have more just choice in how you build your character in a role-playing game, and not feel like you're shoehorned in a particular direction. And those are all ideas that I think those guys are trying to figure out how to innovate on in even more, deeper and richer ways. And so, seeing those things happen and get pushed out into the world is really cool. DLC, yeah, I'm super excited for Dead Kel. It is just so cool. Like, obviously, number one, pirates are cool, but like they're absolutely awesome. But the thing that I really like too about Dead Kel is the beginning to the narrative focus kind of falling on this the race, the Dverga race, which you'll I think you can read about it a little bit in the books in Reckoning, and of course on Amalur.com you can read about the Dverga race a little bit. But getting to see their architecture, their kind of ships, the sort of elements of the Dvergan culture getting seen is really, really cool. They're such a cool race. Definitely one of my favorites.
All right, it's time for Reckoning mode questions.
Ooh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, basically going to ask you a series of questions and I need you to fire back with quick one-word answers.
Oh, gosh. Okay, sounds exciting. Got to sharpen my wit here. Wake up, Kevin. Go.
All right, favorite food?
Pizza.
Favorite NPC?
Really, but that's what came to mind. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Favorite NPC in Reckoning?
Agarth.
Favorite place in the world?
Favorite place in the world, Paris.
Favorite place in the Amalur world?
Oh my gosh, why can't I think of anything? Favorite place in the Amalur world? I am thinking, it's so funny when you ask me that question. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm struggling with like, well, what do you guys know? I'm like, okay, wait.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta
Didn't even think about that.
Limited to Reckoning. I don't know. Dyden Hill is such a beautiful little town. I love it. Those guys struggling with the boggart infestation. Oh my gosh.
Favorite non-gaming activity?
Non-gaming activity. I love exercising, running, rock climbing, walking, biking, exercise.
Favorite destiny?
Oh, rogue, might, finesse, hybrid.
Favorite office toy?
Oh, favorite office toy. Reckoning dagger. I got it right here.
Nice.
It's awesome. I can stealth kill people here nearby very easily.
And favorite ability?
Oh, favorite ability would have to be harpoon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, so fun. Yeah, very cool. I just love the fact that you can pull things towards you, and then if it's too big, it's like pulls you towards it. It's like it makes sense in a weird fantasy physics way. It's like, oh no, it's like you cast that spell on something, it makes sense. You're going to be next to it, whether you move towards it or it moves towards you. It's like it makes sense. And but it makes me wonder, like, what is that breaking point like, right? Like, is it a poundage issue or is it like a surface area issue? Like, where is the breaking point of, that mob's going to pull you towards it? Like, I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah, that ability is especially good for like when you're getting attacked from range. Just like, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah. That's right.
Alrighty. Well, do you guys have anything else for Kevin?
I don't think so. But we just want to say thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight and being able to talk with us about all these things. It was really awesome.
Absolutely. Really grateful to be here and excited about what you guys are doing. And, looking forward to being a resource for you guys as you move ahead into the world.
Is there anything you want to tell the listeners before we wrap it up?
I guess we appreciate your support more than we can say. I mean, we do what we can, I think, to tell you guys how valuable we feel the community is, and, sites like 38 Watch, your interest in what we're doing, but it means the world. I mean, it really does. And, we do our best to try to figure out how to reward stuff like that with things like the Day of Reckoning event and other kind of giveaways like the strategy guide stuff. And, we're doing our best to try to, do cool things that we ourselves would like to see if we were, in your shoes. And so, yeah, we appreciate you guys so much. And yeah.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We're going to go ahead and finish it off by announcing the winner of the Reckoning Strategy Guide. And the winner is Chad. Congratulations, you'll be receiving an email from us soon. I want to thank everybody who left feedback. You guys had some really great stuff for us. For example, some of you wanted us to talk about character builds and abilities. Discussing some of the Amalur lore was also suggested. These are things we really liked, and we're actually planning to add in future episodes. If you have more feedback for us, you can always leave it at the official website, or even email us at feedback@thewellpodcast.com. Before we end this, I'd just like to highlight some of the things going on the official Reckoning forums. The second installment of Meet the Team is up. In that, you'll get to know content designer Kitty Hughes. There's also Amalur Captions, which is a weekly contest where you can win a special forum title, Silver Tongue. And there's Heroes of Amalur, where you answer a bunch of questions about yourself, and if chosen, you'll get your own article on the website. If you haven't got the Legend of Dead Kel DLC, it might be worth your time to check out the frequently asked questions that were posted on the forums. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.